Have I ever been homeless? Fortunately, no. I have never had to sleep rough and sleep outside. But I've had a great fear of it since at times. Recently, a few years ago, I had a really bad patch with my post-traumatic stress disorder, and I spent a lot of time thinking about where I would go if I became homeless. Now, there was no reason I was going to become at that point, but there's a fear, and I would imagine I'd go, oh, that looks like a good place. There'd be a little laneway and an alcove, or there'd be a place at the playground underneath the climbing equipment, and I'd think, when it happens, I'll come here and sleep.
Sometimes I wish I could live in a mansion too, and I would house everybody who was homeless. Because I just feel like, especially for winter, which we're in at the moment, it must be awful for them, because it's not like you can go home and get warm or...
I've never been homeless in person, but I've been homeless in spirit. After my brain injury, I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't know who I was. Who was this person? What was this body? What are these reactions? What are these communications? So I haven't been homeless in body, but I have been homeless in spirit.
I have one homeless friend that I talk to in Melbourne here, and people submiss him all the time and said, oh, why are you doing that? And it's like, well, he's not like me and you. He hasn't got anywhere to live. So be nice and help him out occasionally and talk to him instead of being so mean.
People who dismiss people who are homeless more than likely haven't had the experiences of being robbed of everything that they attach their identity to.
And I have had a lot of friends who have, and I know it's tough. And it's not just living out rough, it's also living in boarding houses. They're really tough places, and that can happen to any of us too.
I think they'll be up and down like a yo-yo. I think they're going to wonder whether they're ever going to get any money. Are they ever going to get a place? Do I want a place? They're going to feel emotionally drained. They're going to feel like nobody loves them. These are only just guesses.
You can lose a lot of confidence. You can lose your sense of self, the way that you identify. I think where we live and where we're based actually forms a lot of how we see ourselves and who we see ourselves as people. And I think if you lose that, you lose a part of yourself. And trying to sort of claw your way back to a sense of self is actually very, very difficult from that position.
Yeah, and I was in Western Australia and ended up at the Salvos, and in a dorm full of alcoholics and drug addicts, even though I couldn't recognise that in myself at the time. I was doing the same as them. And it was people were pinching things off each other, and it was horrible. So I just ran away, packed my bag and hitchhiked. And I was drinking all the time, and smoking dope and everything in that experience. And pinched the car and ended up back in jail again. And then I felt relief again.
There is no worse feeling than feeling alone, I think. And having all of your self-respect, because people look at homeless people like they've done something to deserve. People look at people with disabilities like they've done something to deserve their reality.
I have never been homeless. I know that there's a place for me to go. I mean, I'm from a very large family. I have my adult children. I have friends. So I have not ever been in a situation where I have been homeless, and I can't quite imagine what that would be like. I'm at a stage in my life where, because of my work and because of my arts practice, I'm on the move a lot, and I don't feel as though I have a sense of home as such that is mine and a place where I am settled, but I know I always have a place to go and a place where I can lay my head and eat a meal with people. So no, I've never been homeless.
I'm actually pretty angry about currently, because I don't think that I'm angry at the attitudes that people have towards people who are sleeping in our streets in the city, because I don't think anyone wants to sleep on the streets on Elizabeth Street. But there seems to be this attitude that people are doing it because they enjoy it, or people are begging because somehow it's a great lifestyle. It is not. Nobody wants to be begging and living on the streets. They're doing it because the options, the alternatives aren't there.
I know that from my perspective, over the past 20 years, my life has slowly changed to the point now where I don't recognise this life to what it was. Like, even 10 years ago, I was living with my kids, my ex-partner. I had a community around me, and slowly, one by one, because of circumstance, those things drop away. So I imagine that a person who is homeless has watched as things have just slowly fallen away. And I think this sense of displacement and what is my life? How can it be so different to what it was? And not feeling as though they had a place in the world to go to. I can't even imagine that. I mean, even though I know I've still got a place to go my parents are still alive, I still have siblings, my children are still adults, so there's always a place to go. And I've even got friends. But to slowly have those things get stripped away to the point where there's nothing, I can't even imagine.
I mean, some people have really bad relationships with their family. There's lots I would do to keep that relationship with them solid. There's lots of discussions. We have our differences. We don't all say the same. But ultimately, they're my biggest ballast against homelessness is my family. And then up in northern New South Wales, my friends and associates, who would certainly let me stay with them.
Well, I picked up that a lot of people that are living on the streets, they're so close together and they have that bond. They're like family, the homeless people. But there's, and a lot of them have a place to go. Not all of them, but some of them have a place to go. But for whatever reason, they choose to not go home. They'll go to family or whatever reasons, abuse, sexual abuse, whatever. Everyone's got different circumstances.
If you were to go and speak to some of those people on Elizabeth Street about how they got there, I think many of them would tell a story of having some of them would tell a story of having stable income and a job, and they lost their job, their family broke down, things happened, they got sick, and they ended up there. And I can imagine there's a great deal of shame in that, and a great deal of grief and loss and trauma. I think that a lot of those people too will have a history of trauma, and that's never really been addressed or looked at. I just can't believe people think that people would like to live like that. People don't.
I don't have to think about where I'm living, and I know that's a privilege, but other people don't, and that's why this project is so important.